Shalom and good evening to you, worthy friends. Hello, this is the 10th man. This is our first, it's me. I'm not the Elohim, I'm not a plural. This is my first video on the 10th man. So actually this is going to be an introduction. Actually I just posted the first of the 10th man videos yesterday called Crazy Lone Wolf. And I was making that, I was like, this would be a good series. And what I'm doing with the philipfiles is I'm going to start dividing it into different sub-categories. So there will be the 10th man, there will be PP science, PP history, maybe some family fun is already one I've been doing with when I make ones with my kids. But okay, so the 10th man. So this is a concept that actually I'm going to put a link below in a clip from World War Z where they talk about the 10th man. And that's where I kind of heard this concept for the first time. And then when I went to Israel in 2014, I actually took a picture of this is apparently the idea in rabbinical discussions is if you have 9 guys and they all agree and there's a decision to be made and they all agree about the set of circumstances and agree on the decision to be made, the 10th man, his job is to come and argue against, kind of like the devil's advocate. His job is to argue, same set of facts, same things, but argue a different conclusion. So in the World War Z clip, it kind of gets into that, and it was fascinating when I heard that. I was like, that's interesting. And I feel that is something I'm really good at. I don't like to argue for the sake of argument, but I do see things differently. And I don't mind doing that. And so that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be about this whole topic. I'm going to introduce some of the topics that I'm going to be covering in this 10th Man series. And I was just writing down a few earlier, and I was like, man, this could be a lot of videos. And since I already, with the Crazy Lone Wolf, I've already kind of resigned myself to being considered crazy. I finally have come to embrace that. And so that's the song we're going to listen to here is a Steve Taylor song. I'll tell you more about that after you hear it. So.
Life unwinds like a cheap sweater, but since I gave up hope, I feel a lot better. And the truth gets blurred like a wet letter, but since I gave up hope, I feel a lot better. While the world winds down to a final prayer, nothing seems quicker than complete despair. I forget to buy dinner, I won't even care. Since I gave up hope, I feel a lot better.
I know that's not the point of the song, but that line, since I gave up hope, I feel a lot better. I know it's satirical, and yet sometimes we hold on to things. I've struggled with rejection. I've talked about this other places, but I've struggled with rejection. And the last year I've been rejected more than ever in my life, and yet it hasn't affected me to the degree that it used to. I think a part of that has to do with some spiritual things and some prayer and some different things I won't go into now. But since I gave up hope on being accepted, I feel a lot better. And it's not that I want to be rejected. I don't mind asking questions. I don't mind doing things unconventionally. I don't mind. The songs I've been listening to lately, a lot of. All these songs kind of have this theme, and I'm like, okay, is this just my reticular activating system where I hear something and now, like you buy a car and then you see the car everywhere. Okay, so that's that system, and then we see something and then all of a sudden we notice it all these other places. So I've been listening to these songs, King and Country, Lauren Daigle. Actually, I'm going to their concert. I'm taking all my kids. I'm going to go to a concert in December with my kids to King and Country and Lauren Daigle. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Anyway, both very good albums. Check those out. But I think they're free on Amazon Prime, so I should put like an affiliate link. See, I got to start thinking more business on these videos, And it's not that I want to be rejected. And it's not that I want people to think I'm crazy. I'm just okay with it. Or maybe I'm getting to that. I'm kind of warming up to it. And I've struggled with this, actually, even the last couple months. I was telling some friends about the 9/11 video, which I've already shot, but I haven't edited yet. One, it's going to take a little longer, and two, it's just, I knew, it's like when you go past a certain point, people are like, okay, you're a little quirky, And then there's that line where it's like, oh, yeah, you're one of those people. You're crazy, you know. We're all quirky. We're all a little weird, but there's a certain line where people are like, oh, yeah. Then they dismiss you. And I talked about this yesterday in the Crazy Lone Wolf video. But for today, there's this verse, and I think it's Revelation 10:9. Actually, I know it is because I wrote it down. So I just looked it up before I saw the video. And the angel comes, and he gives a scroll for John to eat. Okay. And this is the thing. He says, when you eat it, it'll be sweet to your mouth. It'll be sweet. And that's where a lot of these ideas and a lot of these things I get into, a lot of these thinking differently, thinking outside the box, asking questions. A lot of them, at first, they're sweet. It's like, oh, you know, you're learning stuff, and you're like, things are, you're that matrix experience where you take the red pill and things open up. And, ugh. But the problem is, he eats the scroll, and then when it gets to the stomach, it turns the stomach. It becomes sour and you know. And that's the problem with a lot of these things, as you get into them, and then you're the only one that sees it, or very few people see it. And more people are starting to see it. More and more people are waking up. I think this recent election with Donald Trump, even going back a few years before that with Edward Snowden and the WikiLeaks, and people are starting to wake up to, there's a lot more going on. We're being manipulated. Not manipulatives. We're being manipulated. We're not toys, okay, but we're being toyed with, and we're being manipulated, and people are starting to wake up to that. And now some people, unfortunately, you know, Edward Snowden, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was people were saying, you know, the conspiracy people were saying the government's spying on us, and people were like, no. Well, then Edward Snowden came out and gave evidence and hard proof that, yes, the government is spying on us. And people are like, oh, yeah, we already knew that. So, you know, sometimes I feel like all truth could be just laid out there and people would be like, hey. But anyway, so it's sweet to the lips, but it churns the stomach. And I think part of this, and the part of the reason that when okay, so like the 9/11 video, when I do that, I don't know that I'm right. Okay, I'm kind of Johnny come lately on that. There's a lot of other people that did a lot better research, but I kind of compiled it and kind of summarized it. Okay, so I could be totally wrong, but I'm willing to ask that question. I'm willing to see things a little differently. Actually, while I'm thinking about that, this little poster back here is one of my favorite posters. I'm sorting through stuff in my house, going through some teaching stuff, and this was when I taught social studies a few years back. Some students made this, and I love this poster because it's different. You know, most posters, north is going up, right? And I encourage the students, and this class project, they all made maps of Europe. Most of them just made a political map of Europe. Well, this particular group, they did an economic map and political, but they turned north that way, and I loved it. It was genius. But here's the deal: most people kind of see everything a certain way, and to shift it, to change as Dilbert would say, a paradigm shift, it's very difficult. I think the psychology, they call it a cognitive dissonance. We see things a certain way, and when facts and information comes in that is uncomfortable to us, because it's like, wait a second, we resist it. And I do that. I don't mean to do that, but at first I'm kind of like one of I guess the story in the Bible that I feel most exemplifies me is a father goes to two sons and he says, hey, I want you to do this job. And the first son says, yes, I'll do it. And the second son's like, I don't think so. But then the first son doesn't do it, and the second son ends up doing it. I feel like I'm that second son. It's not that I want to have a bad first reaction, but I'm not just like one of these people. You tell me to say something, and I'm going to mimic it back to you or disagree with it. I'm kind of stubborn. Just a little bit. So anyway, but so cognitive dissonance, another problem with a conspiracy theorist, which is basically, and not all these things in the 10th Man series are going to be conspiracy theories, but what happens is you get these ad hominem attacks. Ad hominem, like when somebody calls you crazy. If you call somebody crazy, you don't have to listen to anything they say. You can just dismiss them. Or they're one of those, or they're that, or, you know, it's an ad hominem. You're not listening to the argument. You're just kind of dismissing the whole thing because that person's crazy. All right. So, but one of the ideas that I've been teaching in class, and I used to have it on the beginning of these videos, and once I learn motion better, I'll put it back on there, but is truth can be tested. And I talk about that in my science classes especially. Truth can be tested. And so you don't have to take my word for something. Like when I edit and I post the 9/11 video, check it out. You don't have to take my word for it. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to be wrong, but I probably am going to be wrong on a number of things. But test it. Even if you come and you get back to the same conclusion you had in the beginning, you're going to have a stronger conclusion. I know that with my own faith as a Christian. I believe in Jesus, all right? But I had to test that. There were times where I struggled with, not atheism per se, but kind of an agnostic. And there's still times where I struggle with certain things and progressive revelation. Anyway, there's a lot of theological stuff that I've struggled with. And a lot of times I'll come back to the faith that where I grew up, but sometimes I won't. And actually, that's one of the parts that I'm going to discuss in the 10th Man, is some theological things that I actually have come to a divergent opinion. And so one I've already done, I didn't label it 10th Man, but I did a video a while back on hell. I'll probably redo that. It was a fun video. I shot half of it in hell, in the Gehenna Valley near Jerusalem. I actually went there and I shot it, and then I shot some part of there, and then the other half I shot like a year and a half later in Tulsa, and I try to edit those together. It was fun to make, but I want to do that again and kind of make it more concise. I know that made you laugh if you've watched many of these videos when I say I want to be concise. Okay, all right. So anyway, another video. So I have some theological things I want to get into in this 10th Man series. Hell is one. Another one, I'm just going to give away a lot of my videos, but you'll have to hopefully watch them. There's actually the song, but God is in control. Find a scripture that says God is in control. There aren't any. That's an interesting take. So that's something I'm going to get into. Is God in control? I don't think he is. I'm giving away my video, but God is sovereign. In Romans 8:28, he works all things for the good, but he is in control. So this is a concept I've been kind of messing with about control, command, and calling. I think God calls, he doesn't control. But anyway, that's going to be another one. Divorce. Having gone through a divorce recently, I never really thought I would be divorced, and so that's something a friend challenged me on, and so I started to investigate that. And that's interesting. So I'm going to do a kind of a divergent view on that. I don't know why all my views are divergent. It's not like I'm trying to be difficult. I'm just... Nimrod, the mark of the beast, that's another thing I kind of want to get. Those are theological ones. Now, as far as geopolitical ones, 9/11, as I talked about, JFK, I got here, Kennedy slain. And when you study much about the secret societies and stuff, there's a connection, all right, between that and John F. Kennedy, and so I kind of want to get back in that. And I was a very strong proponent of the fact that, the lone gunman for a long time, and then as I've changed my views on a number of things, and questioning. Some things I haven't come to like a solid position yet. I'm still kind of in that questioning phase. But some other things we'll talk about, the Federal Reserve and our monetary system, fiat currency and all that. Again, secret societies, vaccines. I work for a pediatric office, and yet I don't mind exploring that because that is interesting and scary. So truth can be tested, and so in this 10th Man series, I encourage you, if you watch something, engage and tell me where I'm wrong, and if you have some ideas for additional videos for this particular series, let me know. Again, the idea of this is the 10th Man. Look at things differently. Maybe look at it from a different direction. Ask questions. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. So that's this series. This series is going to be the 10th Man. So again, if you have suggestions for topics to explore, let me know. As I go into this, I'm not going to say, I'll never tell you, you got to believe me. Because number one, if I ever tell you, you have to believe me, don't believe me. Because trust is kind of like that way. If somebody says you have to trust them, run. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to believe anything I say. And test it. I mean, Paul, it talks about the Bereans testing what he said. Somebody would be offended. How dare you test what I say? No, test what I say. If it's true, it will hold up. If it's not true, let me know, because I want the truth. The truth is important. And anyway, so this is a 10th Man series. It should be fun. And now that I've given up hope of being a normal, accepted, conventional automaton, I will jump both feet into this world of the crazy. Hope you'll join me. Shalom. I don't know how I'll cut this in here, but the reason I'm wearing this shirt, Parosha, I bought this when I went to Russia in 1993. And this is a scary thing. I've been watching a lot of Russian videos, Vladimir Putin, President Putin. Of course, I had a dream about him over a year ago, and posted that and did a video on that. But since then, I've really been paying better attention. And it's scary when the leader of Russia makes more sense than our leaders and our politicians. And I think that's changing a little bit. I just watched a long video from Donald Trump about the first 100 days that he posted 2 weeks before the election. I'm like, oh wow, this guy actually makes sense. Again, you don't get this in the news. You get, the sound bites, and we'll cut this and this and make him sound like a racist or whatever. When you actually listen to him, you're like, wow, this guy actually makes a lot of sense. So that's one of the things we're being manipulated on. And with Russia, I love America, and I'm really glad that it seems like we might be able to have peace with Russia and not this antagonism that Obama and Clinton have been stirring up. It looks like with Trump that there can be a chance for some peace and some working together on stuff. And that makes me really happy. Because I love visiting Russia. I love the Russian people. And listening to Vladimir Putin, President Putin, I'm like, man, this guy actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm not going to just take everything he says and believe it all. That's, again, discerning. That's part of being a 10th man. You look at all the stuff, and you try to come to a decision and look at all the facts. But anyway, that's just, I do want to explain why I was wearing this Russian shirt here, Russian hockey shirt.